Warning, this video is recommended for ages 13 and up. Watching cartoons is a lot of fun. The thing is, we sometimes forget that these same cartoons are made by adults. So, have you ever noticed the many non-kid friendly jokes that exist in various cartoons, including your favorites?
Goodbye, childhood.
For example, if you watched Encanto, you probably didn't realize, but when Dolores says that Mariano, Isabella's fiance, wants to have 5 kids, 2 very funny things happen. The first one is that the sister who is getting married simply freezes with a scared look on her face. But then we see that several little flowers grow in her hair. So we can understand that first she was scared by the idea of having 5 kids running around her house, but then she seems to think it might be good after all, since they would have to make the kids, if you know what I mean. This is definitely a subtle adult joke, but we noticed it in Encanto. In the end, the wedding doesn't happen, and it seems that Dolores will have the 5 babies, even though it was proven that the sister said that just as a joke to see Isabella's reaction. Indeed, there are many more adult jokes hidden in cartoons and animated movies than you can imagine. Of course, the Minions couldn't be left out of this list, since what they lack in size, they make up for in dirty minds. In the first movie of the franchise, we can see this at the very end of the movie when we see 3 Minions at a photocopy machine. One of them took off his overalls and sat his behind on the equipment, while the other 2 Minions are below looking at the photocopy of the Minion's bottom that's sitting on the copier. So, we actually see the image of the Minion's butt on one of the sheets and the 3 of them laughing out loud. I have to admit that I laughed a lot when I saw this part of the movie, but here's a tip for you: never do that, especially at your workplace. But that's not the only time we see the Minions showing their behinds, because now in the latest Gru movie, in Despicable Me 4, when our favorite villain's employees are going to the AVL headquarters, we see that they are having a lot of fun. But one of them seems to go overboard and takes off his overalls and puts his bottom out of the vehicle window for everyone driving on the highway to see as a prank. This is definitely an adult prank. Even in the movie Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, a Disney movie, we see a scene that also references a very non-child-friendly practice. When Ralph arrives at the internet hub with Vanellope, the big guy is approached by a pop-up that asks him if he wants to meet single housewives. This is a clear reference to hacker sites that use dating site fronts to lure unsuspecting internet users, which is exactly what Ralph is at that moment. And of course, dating sites are for adults only, so there's the double entendre of the scene. And if I tell you that superhero cartoons are where we find the heaviest jokes, would you believe it? One of these jokes happens in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon during a Halloween party where Peter Parker, guess what, dresses up as himself, Spider-Man, but without the mask, of course. And some of his classmates think he looks so good that one of them simply says that with that costume, he could tie her up whenever he wanted. This is definitely a great pickup line, but also a very adult joke in one of the most kid-friendly Spider-Man cartoons, so much so that Peter gets very blushed in this scene.
You can web me up anytime, Petey.
Something very similar happens in an episode of the historical Justice League cartoon. In the episode in question, a villain with magical powers ends up making all the men on the planet go to another dimension, leaving only the women to do everything by themselves. Obviously, the world goes into complete chaos. After all, men and women must exist in a balanced world. But Wonder Woman, who was raised in Themyscira, the Amazon island where men were forbidden to enter, comments to Hot Girl that a world without men wasn't that bad. Hot Girl disagrees and says that no one wants to live in a world without men, and tells the princess not to criticize without ever having experienced it.
Don't knock it till you've tried it, princess.
This shows that Hot Girl has much more experience than Diana when it comes to dating. Maybe that's why after this scene, Wonder Woman started having a crush on Batman. Even when they're turned into kids, she still likes him. I know you love to play, so check out this awesome Sonic toy for you to have fun with. Click the link in the first pinned comment and take it home. And if there's a cartoon that's full of heavier jokes, it's definitely SpongeBob SquarePants. In one of the episodes of the SquarePants, we see him take off Gary's shell, his pet, to clean it. When he does that, we can see that under the little sea snail's shell, there's nothing less than a perfectly drawn butt. Seriously, that makes no sense, but even so, it's very funny. And if you think there are some cartoons where these jokes don't happen, I have to tell you that that's very difficult actually. Because even in The Loud House, one of the lightest content cartoons I've ever watched, we can find a very heavy joke. When Lynn is talking to Lincoln and comments that there are no balls in the house, we see that the boy makes a very funny face. This is a joke that clearly alludes to the fact that Lincoln is the only boy in the family, since all of his siblings are girls. Surely the joke wasn't referring to sports balls, if you know what I mean. Seriously, someone needs to talk to Nickelodeon about these jokes. And after that, we find another dubious scene also in The Loud House. In one of the episodes of the latest seasons of the cartoon, we see that Lincoln's mom and dad are confronted with footage of the two of them. The cameras caught them entering the pool, and after that, they simply throw their clothes away, indicating they went swimming as they came into the world. The joke indicates that they really have a lot of energy, which proves why they have no less than 11 kids, right? But certainly, old cartoons had an even more wicked air in their jokes. For example, in a cartoon called Two Stupid Dogs, we see that a boy ends up finding the two dogs on the street and takes them to school. There he says that the two dogs are male, and his classmates ask how he knows that, so he picks up one of the dogs by the two legs and shows the little dog's private parts to everyone. I laughed a lot when I saw this scene, and what surprises me the most is that they did this in 1994. If you really love cartoons, we have some incredible news for you. We've launched a new quiz channel. In it, we'll test our knowledge about our favorite cartoons and movies like Bluey, Peppa Pig, and many others. It will be a journey full of challenges, laughter, and lots of fun with Wavy. Don't waste any time. Subscribe now at the link in the description or point your camera at the QR code on the screen and start playing. I'll see you there. And it really seems that the yellow beings from Despicable Me love jokes involving butts. In the third movie, when the minions are in jail, they line up for Mel to tattoo them, and at one point when it's a Gru servant's turn to get his tattoo, he simply drops his clothes and shows his bottom. And if you rewind the scene, you'll see that the other minion in line looks at his colleague's bottom that's going to be tattooed and gives a very non-innocent laugh. You start to realize that no cartoon is free from double entendre jokes when even in Bluey, we find some things that make us reflect. In the episode where Bluey and Bingo pretend that they're taking the bus and they just met Chili, who secretly confesses that she's in love with the driver, who happens to be Bandit. At another moment, Bluey then comments that the driver is very hairy, and Chili says she likes him hairy, leaving the idea of a double entendre in the air in the context of the conversation.
He's a bit hairy, isn't he?
Not for me.
Another cartoon that is a bit older but still very well known is Regular Show from Cartoon Network. Those who watch the show know that throughout most of the episodes, Mordecai was completely in love with Margaret. And in the episode where he and Rigby form a band, the Bluebird gives his crush a band shirt. And when she tries to put it on, she struggles, and we can see that Mordecai is totally focused on Margaret's upper part, if you know what I mean, which leaves him completely excited and shows a bit of the character's dirty mind as well.
How do I look?
If you've watched the Fairly OddParents, you definitely know the show is very good and super funny, but even so, it has some moments that aren't so kid-friendly. When Timmy Turner is in the conservatory, he ends up losing his clothes, and right at the moment when he is naked, the staff member raises the curtains and turns on the holographic projection. Luckily for Timmy, and for our luck too, when Timmy is facing forward and backward, a planet is projected over his body, preventing us from seeing him as he came into the world. This is definitely a scene that was made to make the older fans of the show laugh. When I discovered all these adult jokes in these cartoons that I love so much, I was kind of surprised that I had never noticed them before. But certainly rewatching all this is very funny and entertaining. And since I know you also like to have fun, we have selected 2 incredible videos for you to watch, and they are appearing for you right now. I've heard that the video on the right is very cool. If I were you, I would watch both. Thanks!